So there is a question that is quietly shaping every church, every ministry, and honestly every one of us. And that is, what are we known for? What are we known for? In other words, if someone in our community, someone who doesn't go to church, were asked to describe our church, what would they say? Would they say, oh man, that church has strong opinions? Or would they say, oh man, that church has a great discipleship ministry? Or would they say, I love that worship team? Or would they say, what church are you talking about? I don't know that church. What would they say? Or would they say, oh, those people at Fourth and College, yeah, those people they love, you know? What would they say? Because before people will ever listen to what we believe, they're going to experience how we love. And that's what this little two-part series is this week and next week. And then I'll be heading out on vacation. That's what this whole series is about. Just two weeks. It's just simply, what is this church about? What is our mission in motion? In other words, how are we going to live out our mission? And so we haven't talked about this in a while, but our mission statement is basically our North Star. It's how we determine what we do, where we go. It guides us with everything that we do, and it's really, really simple. Somebody tell me what our mission statement is. You know what it is, some of you. Loving people and leading them to Jesus. I mean, that's what this is all about. That's who we are. That's who we are striving to be. We are striving to be people who love others, love people, and we lead them to Jesus. But before we can ever lead people to Jesus, we must love them well, right? Before we can lead people to Jesus, we must love them well. And we don't love people to get something from them. We love people because every person is created in the image of God, and God himself is love. Like, so often, I feel like sometimes us churches, we get this bad rap. Sometimes it's deserved, sometimes it's not, where we're trying to bait and switch. You know, we're trying to get you to be part of the church so that we can get something from you, whether it's, bigger numbers and attendance or whether it's money in the collection plate. But we don't love people to get something from them. We love people because every person is created in the image of God. Yes, even the most annoying person that you can think of, even the most terrible person that you can think of, is created in the image of God. And often, the first place that people will encounter him, Jesus, is through our love. And so, as I try to refocus us this morning on our mission, and as we try to love people well, there's basically three things that I want you to remember as we try to put our mission into motion, as we try to live out our mission. And the first thing is this: love is our identity, not just our activity. Now, we did a whole series over 1 John a while back, but I want to bring us back to 1 John chapter 4 because there's no better place to go. And here John says this. He says, "Dear friends, let us continue to love one another, for love comes from God. Anyone who loves is a child of God and knows God, but anyone who does not love does not know God, for God is love." You see, John tells us to love one another because love comes from God, and anyone who loves is a child of God and is born of God and knows God. That's identity language. If somebody was to walk up to you and say, "Who are you?" "I'm God's child. I love because God loved me," right? That's identity. That's who I am. Love isn't something that we turn on or turn off. It's not something that we show once in a while and then turn around and chew out our customer, our coworker, our employee, our boss, or make a scathing post on Facebook. We don't just turn on love when we want to. Love is who we are. Have you thought about the fact that your love or lack thereof, will either draw people to us as a church or push people away? Think about it. The way you live, the way you love, is either going to push people away from us or it's going to draw people in. every single one of us, our actions, what we say, what we do, how we respond, it has consequences. And when we show our love, we draw people towards Jesus, and we actually can be the first way that they experience Christ. It's not something that we schedule. It's not something that we do every now and then. It's not something that we do to feel good about ourselves. Love is who we are becoming. You know, if you walk around town, you'll see that there are several peach trees around Cordell. Anybody got a peach tree in their yard? Just one couple, one person? Anyways, if you walk up to a peach tree, you don't expect it to try to make peaches, right? It just makes peaches because that's what it is. It is a peach tree. And in the same way, when God changes us, love becomes the natural fruit of our lives. You won't be perfect. It won't be effortless. You've got to put in the work, but love will increase as you become a child of God and as you cling to Him more, as you mold and shape your life into what He is calling you to become. Love will increase. And I hope that this idea changes the way that you think about love. Because here's the thing, we don't love because it's easy. In fact, loving people is one of the hardest things that we're called to do as followers of Jesus. Because people do some really unlovable things. Like that's putting it nicely, right? We don't just love when it's deserved. You know, there's a lot of people in this world who deserve love, and there's a lot of people who don't. But we don't love when it's deserved. We love because that's who we are. We don't just love when it benefits us. We love because that's who we are and because we have been loved first. Right? We've been loved first. John says this in verse 11. He says, "Dear friends, since God loved us that much to send Jesus for us, we surely ought to love each other." See, we didn't earn God's love. We didn't impress Him into loving us. We didn't clean ourselves up good enough to get Him to love us. He moved toward us first. He loved us first. And so let me ask you just a few things. Let me ask you something that really hopefully you can ponder over. Is love something that you do occasionally, or is it something that you are becoming? Because the world doesn't need one more hypocritical Christian person in this world who only loves when it's convenient. Instead, our world needs sold out disciples of Jesus who are the very presence of love everywhere that we go. That's what our world needs. But the church gets a terrible rap, and oftentimes it's deserved, that we are just a bunch of hypocrites. And, if we're really, really honest with ourselves, we are. Like, we're trying to become something, and there's times where our flesh just comes out. But here's the thing. Don't let it go unaddressed. Don't let it be unaffected by God's love. You should be better 5 years from now than you are now, right? It's a process. Love is our identity, not just our activity. Second thing I want you to remember this morning as we try to put our mission into motion, and that is that love moves toward people, not away from them. So in Luke chapter 10, Jesus tells this really awesome story. It's a parable, so it didn't really happen. But it's a story to make a point, right? He's trying to make a point to the people who are listening to him. So he tells this story about a Jew who's on his way from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he had probably just finished worshiping because he was coming from Jerusalem to Jericho, because Jerusalem is the place where the temple was, right? And so on his way, bandits find him. They beat him, they rob him, and then they leave him for dead. And then two religious people walk by, which isn't surprising because it's the road to Jerusalem where the temple is. And so the two religious people, one is a priest, the one who performs the actual things and duties in the temple, and then one is a Levite, the one who helps the priests. They both walk by and they both keep going. We don't really know why. I mean, Jesus doesn't supply that information. He kind of lets us read into it, but maybe they were in a hurry. Maybe they didn't want to make themselves unclean for their duties in the temple, because if they touched a dead body or if they touched blood, they wouldn't be able to serve in the temple. I mean, we don't really know. But for some reason, the two religious guys don't help. But then someone else comes by. Verse 33 of Luke chapter 10. Then a despised Samaritan came along, and when he saw the man, he felt compassion for him. Instead of avoiding, the Samaritan, the hated enemy of the Jews, moves toward the man who had been beaten, towards the man who had been left for dead. He doesn't analyze the situation too long. Well, is he going to make it? I mean, is it worth my time to really stop? He doesn't debate about whether the man deserves hell. Why was he stupid enough to be out here in this road by himself at that time of day with no protection? Why is he so stupid? He doesn't think about whether the guy is qualified or whether he's qualified to take care of the guy. Well, I'm not a doctor. I mean, what can I do for this guy? And he doesn't do any of that stuff, which, if you're like me, you have those conversations in your mind as you have opportunity to show love. He doesn't do any of that. Rather, he engages. He soothes his wounds with olive oil and wine, and he bandages them. He puts the beaten man, on his donkey. He brings him to an inn. He provides money for his continued care, and he promises to return just in case there's anything extra that the guy needs. Have you ever noticed how the opportunity to show love is always an interruption? It's always an interruption, you know? Like, we've got a schedule, we've got places to be, we've got things to do, and then all of a sudden, somebody needs your time, somebody needs your attention, somebody needs your compassion. And the question becomes, whether you acknowledge it or not, will I move toward or away? Because here's the reality. Love almost always costs you something. Time, comfort, convenience, resources. Love always costs you something. Those of you who are parents, when you decide to bring a child into the world, costs you time, costs you comfort, costs you convenience, costs you resources. But you love that child. Same way when we're showing love in the world around us. It costs us those things. The Samaritan stops his journey. He touches the wounded man. He uses his own supplies. He pays out of his pocket. That's not convenient. That's not convenient love, right? It's not convenient to stop, but that is Christ-like love. And after telling this story, then Jesus flips the original question on its head. Do you remember the original story? Or the original question that Jesus has asked with this story? He's asked, who's my neighbor? Because there's a guy who's trying to justify himself. He's trying to figure out who he has to love and who he doesn't have to love. And Jesus actually flips that question over, and he basically asks the guy, will you be a neighbor? It's not about deciding who deserves your neighboring or who deserves your love. It's about, will you be a neighbor? Will you love? So who in your life right now is easy to overlook? Who in your life is inconvenient for you to engage? Who in your life is different from you? Who do you struggle to show love to? Because here's the reality. Love does not sit back. It does not walk past. Love moves toward. If we're going to put our mission into motion. And finally, love is how we become salt and light. In Matthew chapter 5, in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says this. He says, you are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. And then in John chapter 13, I think he kind of clues them into how this happens. He says this, so now I'm giving you a new commandment. Love each other just as I have loved you. You should love each other. Your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples. You see, love is what changes this world. It's what provides flavor to this world. It's what shines light into the darkness. And don't forget that the primary evidence of our faith is not how much scripture you know. It's not how often you attend church. It's not how polished our services, our worship services look. The primary evidence is found in how consistently we love other people. Like, that is how we become salt and light. I mean, think about it this way. When, light doesn't argue with darkness, right? You don't see this butting heads when you have light and darkness in the same place. Light just simply shines and darkness goes away. There's no argument about it. You don't walk into a room and start debating the darkness and saying, man, this darkness is really awful. I wish you would go away, darkness. No, you walk over and you flip on the light and the darkness is gone. Right? It's gone. And that's what love does. When we love people, we are flipping on the light switch. It softens heart. It builds trust. It opens the door to the gospel. It makes the world a better place, because people may resist our message as followers of Jesus, but they will remember how you loved. They will remember how you loved. Think about someone who impacted your life spiritually. Think about somebody who impacted your life spiritually, because chances are they listened to you, they showed up for you, they cared about you before they ever taught you anything. In other words, they loved you. Is your life a life of love? Does it point to Jesus? So I want to leave you with a warning and an invitation. And it comes from 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Paul says this. We read the second part of this passage, but we're going to read the first part of this passage right now. Paul says this: if I could speak all the languages of earth and of angels, but didn't love others, I would only be a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I had the gift of prophecy, and if I understood all of God's secret plans and possessed all knowledge, and if I had such faith that I could move mountains, but I didn't love others, I would be nothing. If I give everything I have to the poor, and even sacrifice my body, I could boast about it. But if I don't love others, I would have gained nothing. Imagine somebody just standing over in the corner, banging a cymbal over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Wouldn't that be the most annoying thing you could imagine? Like, have you ever been to a beginner band where somebody on the cymbal is just having a blast and he's like banging it louder than everybody else, and you're just like, you just can't take it. Like, that's what Paul says you are. You can do all the Christian things. You can come to church. You can do nice things for people. You can do all kinds of stuff. You can serve up here. But if you don't have love, he says you're just like that gong or that clanging cymbal. All the good things that you do don't matter. You're nothing. Because you're not loving. You're not doing it with love. Nobody cares. It really doesn't matter how impressive you are. It's nothing. You see, we don't love people to grow the church. We don't love people to grow the church. We don't love people to win arguments. We don't love people to feel better about ourselves. We love because God is love. We've been loved. And our world desperately needs to see Jesus in us. Our world needs to see that. When we look around our world, when we experience what's going on in our world, when we see the polarized political situation that we have in our country right now, when we see all the things going on around us, this world needs people who love with everything they've got. What if I asked you every day, how can I move toward somebody in love? What if you asked yourself every day, how can I move towards somebody in love? What if you asked God to show you who to move towards? And then what if you acted on it? What if? My encouragement to you this morning is send the text, make the call, have the conversation, meet the need. Do something. Live out your love, because love isn't just something we believe. It's something that we live in our very being. And if we get this right, people won't just hear about Jesus from us. They will experience Jesus through us. Now, may our God and Father himself make your love increase and overflow for each other and for everyone else. May he strengthen your hearts so that you will be holy and blameless in the presence of our God and Father when our Lord Jesus comes again. Amen.